Welcome to the Kingdom at Home podcast. Practical mentorship for families who refuse to fail. Here are your guides, Michael and Sarah. Let's build together.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to crack open the work of Gustavo Cerbasi to understand why money. Well, why it's so often this hidden bomb threatening the very foundation of a partnership.
It's a huge issue, and it really does transcend income brackets. I mean, Cerbasi, he's an expert in behavioral finance, and he argues that the biggest threat to your long-term relationship, it's not a lack of passion or patience.
No.
It's simply a lack of shared financial planning.
That immediately reframes the whole problem, doesn't it? We're not talking about, minor squabbles here.
Yeah.
There was a survey Cerbasi cites, and it found that a staggering 38% of married people admitted to fighting over money.
And what's really insightful here, and what we want you to take away right from the start, is that those fights are rarely about the money itself.
Right. They're about something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're arguments about the emotional symptoms, things caused by financial inability or, disagreement. The fight over the credit card bill is actually a fight about postponed dreams or feeling neglected.
Or not being able to afford a simple date night.
Yes. Money is just the microphone. It's not the message.
So our mission in this deep dive is to move you away from those reactive, symptom-based arguments and more toward a proactive planned prosperity. We're analyzing Cerbasi's approach to achieving a financially happy union.
And ensuring that emotional harmony follows from those shared objectives.
Okay, so where do these conflicts come from?
Well, it's critical to see that they arise from two places. Most obviously, scarcity, where, your income just doesn't cover your expenses.
The classic scenario.
But, and this is counterintuitive, conflicts also come from excess, from having a lot of money. Because then couples disagree, sometimes vehemently, on how to spend it or invest it or save it.
So the root error is always the same.
Always. It's an inability to handle the money you have or to make that money do what you need it to do.
Okay, let's unpack this then by diving into behavior. Cerbasi really emphasizes that dialogue alone is, well, it's pretty useless unless it's tied to concrete objectives.
Exactly. Before you can plan, you have to understand who you are financially and how that meshes with your partner's profile.
And he identifies, 5 core financial personalities?
That's it. 5. You can think of them as your personal financial archetypes. Let's start with the savers.
Okay.
These are the disciplined ones. They are excellent at restricting current expenses, but sometimes to the point of being seen as stingy. Their whole focus is on the future.
You've got the opposite, the spenders.
Right. They live for today. I mean, they see life measured by width, not length, and they feel, really restricted by financial controls. They're the ones buying the expensive gadget to celebrate something, budget or no budget.
Risking the future for today.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the third type, the uncontrolled. These individuals are in constant trouble, high interest trouble.
They just have no idea where the money goes.
None at all. They don't know what their income is, where it goes, and they're always cycling through debt, like overdrafts.
Okay, number 4 is the uninterested. This one is a bit tricky.
It is, because they spend less than they earn, which sounds good.
Right.
But they don't track anything. Bank statements, investment portfolios, they just sit in a drawer unopened. They miss huge opportunities just by being passive.
And the last one.
And finally, the financiers. These are the rigorous controllers. They live for spreadsheets. They understand things like inflation and compounding. They're excellent at detailed, long-term planning.
But Cerbasi notes they can be tedious for their partners sometimes.
A little boring, yeah, because they're focused on optimizing every single dollar.
So this is where it gets really interesting, right? The couple dynamics, what he calls the financial horoscope.
Mixing these types creates some predictable outcomes.
And sometimes dangerous ones. The most common and probably the most difficult combination is the saver paired with the spender.
I see that.
Cerbasi calls this the stumbling over each other profile. They just operate on 2 completely different value systems. One values tomorrow, the other values today.
And their finances are just a mess of crises and fights, unless they commit to some really rigid professional planning.
Now, you contrast that with what Cerbasi sees as the ideal synergy, the saver paired with the financier.
Right. This combination tends to evolve into what he calls full steam ahead.
And why is that?
Because the financier can take the saver's dedication, their restriction, and apply it to intelligent, growth-focused investing. The focus stays on the long term, but it's done efficiently.
But doesn't that risk making life, A bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
A pair of hyper-controllers.
It's a valid point. But Shrbasi argues that real financial planning isn't about restriction. It's about defining the shared goals that make the future exciting. A well-planned renovation or an aggressive travel fund that replaces the excitement of an impulse buy.
I see. So the control is just the tool that makes the exciting goal possible, not the goal itself.
Exactly.
And we see the opposite of that in the example he gives us of Patricia and Sergio. They started with a high income, something like $7,900 a month.
A really good income. But because of uncontrolled consumption, bad decisions, they ended up with over $32,000 in debt.
Wow. And they were forced to sell assets just to cover fees. It just proves that a high income only amplifies your bad habits if your core profiles are clashing.
Income is just the fuel. Your financial profiles are the steering wheel.
If you appreciate this kind of deep dive analysis, make sure you're subscribed. It's the fastest way to support us and to make sure you don't miss our next topic. Best of all, it is completely free.
Okay, so let's move on to the foundation of actually building wealth. Shrbasi delivers a core truth here that I think a lot of high earners ignore.
Which is?
Your long-term wealth does not depend on what you earn. It depends exclusively on how you spend.
That is hard, especially for anyone who's just focused on chasing the next salary increase.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense, like a leaky bucket.
Right. And so many couples fail because they only focus on the big, obvious costs, the mortgage, tuition, car payments, and they totally ignore the cumulative impact of what we'd call small, daily expenditures.
The little leaks.
Those are the budget killers. The daily coffee, frequent takeout, a newspaper, tips, impulse buys. The person making $200,000 a year but who spends $3,000 a month on discretionary stuff they can't account for
Is actually poorer than someone making $50,000 who tracks everything.
Exactly.
And this just highlights the power of delayed gratification. Planning is, at its heart, about paying less for your dreams.
It is. Shrbasi uses this great car example. Imagine a car worth, say, $21,500.
Okay.
You could choose to save $300 a month for it. In 5 years, you buy it, you pay cash, and you're done.
Simple enough.
Now, compare that to financing that exact same car today over 5 years. The total expense just jumps dramatically. In his scenario, the total you pay the bank is $25,772.
Wait, so you just spent over $4,100.
Just in interest and fees. That's a 43% loss compared to what you could have earned by just waiting and saving.
That immediate decision costs you so much more time and energy down the road. It's almost painful to think about.
It is.
So that's the path if you're planning. But what if a listener is already in the red? What if the budget isn't just tight, but it's actively negative?
If you're in debt, you need to make immediate, drastic cuts. The priority has to be declaring war on that debt.
And specifically?
Specifically, you have to replace your expensive debt with cheaper, structured financing. This is where understanding the debt hierarchy is it's crucial.
We have to tackle the deepest, most costly holes first. But the terminology can be confusing, especially if you're not used to it. What's the hierarchy we need to follow?
Okay, so the hierarchy from most expensive down to cheapest is pretty brutal. At the very top, outside the legal system, you have things like illegal loan sharks, absolute last resort.
And what about within the normal banking system?
The most expensive legal options for the average person are almost always the overdraft facility, which Shrbasi calls check especial and credit card partial payments.
Those are the silent killers.
They really are.
Hang on, I always assumed a personal loan was worse than dipping into the overdraft. Is the overdraft really that toxic?
Almost always, yes. The immediate, flexible nature of it is what makes it so insidious. Shrbasi insists that both the overdraft and any revolving credit card debt must be replaced immediately by a structured personal loan.
So even though a personal loan is expensive?
It has significantly lower rates than those revolving debts, and, crucially, it forces you into a concrete repayment schedule.
So that shift from flexible toxic debt to structured debt is the first step toward getting sane.
It is, and the hierarchy continues down toward cheaper, secured loans. So you have auto financing, then real estate financing, and finally, family loans, which are often the cheapest because they're secured by trust, not collateral.
The rule is simple then. If you have debt, refinance it downwards until you hit the lowest possible interest rate.
That's the game plan.
So once debt is stabilized and we're controlling those little expenses, how do we pivot the conversation to genuine independence? Shrbasi gives us a simple but really powerful formula for abundance.
It boils down to this. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, and reinvest the returns until the capital generates your desired monthly income.
And this is where the math meets your life goals. The concept of critical mass.
Right. Let's walk through it. Say you and your partner decide you want to generate $3,000 a month in perpetual work-free income.
A very powerful goal.
To calculate your target mass, you have to estimate the sustainable return you can get after inflation and taxes. Shirbasi uses 0.6% per month in his example.
Which is pretty ambitious, but it's achievable for experienced investors, right? It's not a simple savings account.
No, not at all. It implies a sophisticated long-term strategy. So if you want $3,000 a month and you can reliably get a 0.6% return.
You just divide the 3,000 by 0.006.
And that means you need a critical mass of $500,000. That is your target. Once you hit that $500,000 mark, that capital produces your $3,000 forever, adjusted for inflation, without you ever touching the principal.
And this is where the long-term perspective, the magic of compounding, is so vital. Because $500,000 feels impossible to most people who are just starting out.
It really does. But let's look at the mathematics of patience. If you invest a continuous $100 a month at 1% interest, it's extremely discouraging at first.
Oh, yeah.
After 6 months, you've only gained about $21 in interest. It barely registers. So many people stop here, they feel the effort isn't worth it.
That short-term view is the enemy of prosperity.
Absolutely. But stick with that same plan for 20 years. That's 240 months. Your total applied capital is only $24,000.
Okay.
But the accumulated interest explodes to over $75,900.
Wow.
Compounding accelerates exponentially. It rewards diligence and time way more than it rewards a massive starting amount. The key is just understanding that the first few years feel slow. But once the interest starts generating its own interest, the growth becomes explosive.
If this message resonated with you, help us spread the knowledge. Leave your like, share this audio with anyone who needs to hear this, and let us know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was.
So, to synthesize the entire journey we've laid out today. First, you have to understand your financial profile and your partners, and then negotiate that clash.
Second, define and actually write down shared financial goals that excite both of you.
Third, commit to relentlessly controlling those small daily expenses. They are the budget killers.
And finally, prioritize investing and saving over financing your current consumption.
It's a continuous path, not a one-time fix.
Right. Shirbasi even highlights this idea of continuous financial renewal as a way to safeguard the relationship. He notes that couples should set aside funds to, say, renew the house or take on a major shared project every 7 or 8 years.
And this proactive renewal helps to avoid that common 7-year crisis of relationship boredom, which is so often subconsciously linked to financial monotony.
Keeping the goals evolving keeps the relationship and the money exciting. To leave you with a final provocative thought that really connects discipline to devotion, let's focus on the pay yourself first philosophy. Shirbasi references how many people commit to giving a tithe, say, 10% to their faith or to charity.
And that requires immense non-negotiable discipline. You have to learn to live comfortably on the 90% that's left over.
So the challenge then is to apply that same level of radical, almost sacred commitment to your own future.
Right. If you can live on 90% to honor that outside commitment, you must find a way to live on 80% or whatever it takes to honor the commitment to your own independence and your shared future.
And this isn't about replacing one devotion with another. It's about recognizing the power of that practiced commitment.
Yes. If you are disciplined enough to honor a commitment to charity today, you have to find a way to honor that equally important contribution to your own secure future tomorrow.
Think about what commitment truly means in your household and what percentage of your income you are dedicating before anything else to ensuring that your wealth continues to grow, serving you and your family for decades to come. That planned prosperity is the real antidote to conflict.
This program may have ended now, but your search for wisdom doesn't have to. There is much more for you on our channel. Continue by exploring our vast archive of teachings and reflections. There is always a relevant video for your current stage. If our content has been building up your home, show your support, subscribe to our channel. Additionally, leave your like and tell us in the comments, which region or city are you joining us from? We want to feel the warmth of our community.